The Senate passed a really good marijuana bill a week ago, a bill that had been carefully negotiated over a period of time, meant that we were going to have a very safe product for regulated cannabis use for adults only. There were a couple of curveballs that came in at the very last moment, late last night, and I think you're going to see the House go back and pass what was the originally agreed upon bill, and I think we're going to get something passed within a week.
And Governor, why do you think that the bill that was passed last week is better than the bill that was passed yesterday?
Look, we passed a bill last week that really put an emphasis upon adult use cannabis done on a publicly regulated way that you can do it safe, with a real emphasis upon equity. And I think what happened late last night at the last moment, an amendment came in that sort of changed the terms of equity and in a way that I think a lot of people find uncomfortable.
I know you hope that the House goes back to the original bill or something similar to the original bill that the Senate passed last week. If that doesn't happen and the House comes up with something similar to what the Senate passed yesterday, would you plan to veto the bill? I know that was what you mentioned.
Yeah, I wouldn't support that. I think we had a deal. We had an agreed upon process, really good emphasis upon equity, really good emphasis upon emphasizing our most distressed communities to make sure that they got the resources they need so they could start up a business. Those communities that were hardest hit by the war on drugs. I think that's what we ought to get back to.
And I know you touched on it. You are optimistic that the House's version will be essentially what the original version of the Senate bill was, though?
Well, things change pretty fast over there in the Capitol these days, but I'm optimistic.
So if you had to guess, by the end of the week, will we have a marijuana bill for you to sign that you're willing to sign?
Well, my understanding is if the House passes the original deal, the same thing that the Senate voted on just a week ago, then the Senate does have to come back in and vote yet again. So it may take a little longer than we thought.
But do you think that there is room for that to happen?
Oh, I think there's room for that to happen. I think the broad majority of the people of Connecticut want a safe, regulated market for marijuana. Right now, a lot of people are fighting about how the resources are distributed, but I think there's broad agreement this is where we ought to go.
So not to get too in the weeds about the amendment and everything, but so you talked about helping communities that have been affected by the war on drugs. So what is your objection to helping individuals who have been affected by the war on drugs and who have a marijuana conviction, maybe as one factor in the conversation?
I think by doing it in terms of community, you don't have to say who was there selling drugs or who got victimized in terms of buying drugs. I want to focus on the communities and make sure those communities are the ones that get the resources they need to help everybody get back up on their feet.
And can we touch upon that equity piece a little bit? What specifically about kind of that amendment and language yesterday kind of made you take a step back and say, whoa, this isn't good. This bill's not on the right path right now.
I don't know, if a rich suburban kid is selling pot outside of a high school and he gets busted, all of a sudden he's at the front of the line in order to get a license. That didn't seem to make much sense to me. And I really think that it's the community, not the person, maybe in the judicial, that ought to be prioritized. These are folks in communities that have been hard hit, many of them victimized by people selling them drugs. I think those are the folks that we ought to prioritize and help them get on their feet and start a business.
And with the amendment, even if the parent of that rich suburban kid got busted for selling weed, the parent could apply, right? Isn't that correct?
I think that's right. It got a little messy.
And obviously, our neighboring state, Massachusetts, has had, legalized marijuana for, many years now. Have you kind of been looking to them as well to kind of see, maybe how they've done it, kind of the impact that might come here to Connecticut?
Well, I know one of the worries about legalized cannabis is commercialization. And I tell people, everywhere I go, I see billboards advertising legal cannabis 30 miles up the road. And wait till New York legalizes, which they're going to do in less than a year. So I want to make sure that we control that. And by the way, one of the rules we have in our bill is you can't advertise cannabis in billboards because you're advertising to kids underage. So we're going to be able to clean that up.
Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least ask you one quick question about where you're with today. I like the line, this Connecticut being the Silicon Valley of advanced manufacturing, right? Why is that such a key part of Connecticut's future, do you think?
We've always been a great leader in manufacturing, and the fact that the National Science Foundation said Tunxis is going to be the one national advanced manufacturing center is a big deal. I think it attracts the best and the brightest from all over the state and beyond. They come here and they can be trained for jobs, good paying jobs. Look, when I became governor, we had tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs we couldn't fill because we weren't training people for the jobs. And so the status quo was not good enough for me. And this is an example of how we're making sure those kids are going to be trained. And a lot of kids who otherwise wouldn't get the opportunity are going to get a great opportunity.
Thanks, Silver.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again. Pleasure.
Really appreciate